So, what do you do if by the end of the day you are so touched out and exhausted that the thought of one more person needing something from you or from your body feels like too much? This week on the Sex After Kids podcast, we are looking at the 5 traps that lower libido partners get caught in that are sabotaging your sex life, your connection in your marriage after kids. Last week, we talked about high libido partners, so head on back there if that's you, or if you missed it. And let's talk about lower libido partners because the advice that most low libido partners get is to just make it a priority or just do it anyways, right? The problem with that advice is that it makes you feel more pressured and more broken. Plus, oftentimes we're terrified that if we don't find our libido soon, we're going to lose the connection that matters most. So, a lot of us put pressure on sex being the thing that our partner needs to feel connected to us. Both of us have to open up our connection vocabulary, but there are subtle traps that we fall into around avoidance that make this problem more challenging than it needs to be, or they're traps around signs that show you that you're hiding from this in a way that is not helpful. Okay. So, how do you move out of survival mode and actually want to be close again? Right. I want to talk about these 5 ways that you're accidentally hiding from your sex life and how to start feeling like yourself again so that you can desire more intimacy again. So, I know as a stepmom and a mom of 2 that you aren't actively trying to reject your partner. Okay. If you are, then you probably belong on a different podcast. You're just trying to survive the farkin' day. Okay. But sometimes the ways that we protect ourselves are actually the things that are keeping us stuck in roommate mode. And we don't realize that they're like outs that we are using to avoid connecting in our marriage, whether it's sexual or not. So these are 5 excuses that you're using to hide from sex, to avoid sex, instead of facing the idea, sitting with the idea that sex has become a thing that is not safe, fun, or relaxing for you, and that we can change that if you want it. We can change it if you don't want sex to be this pressure filled thing that you fight about all the time or ignore all the time. And we can change that if you want your marriage to feel alive and passionate and playful and involve sex. Okay. So, what are these shields that we hide behind? Shield number 1 is the co sleeping shield. Okay. Now, let's be real. Co sleeping is survival. I did it with my first 2 babies, even though I never thought I would, but it was literally the only way that anyone slept. And I know my experience and the experience of a lot of parents that I talk to is that that works until it doesn't work anymore, until we're done with being kicked all night or having someone on the boob all night. And we have to go through the sometimes painful process of weaning that, right? Of creating that separation between us and our babies for them, for their independence, for their growth, and for us too. The challenge I see is that a lot of women continue to co-sleep longer than they want to, or longer than they feel comfortable, or even just continue to sneak off to their kids' rooms purely because they are avoiding nighttime advances from their partner. They are avoiding intimacy, cuddling, and connection with their partner. This is where we need to get real with ourselves, okay? Are we actually in a phase of co-sleeping where this is what our kids need from us and this is what we want to give to them, and we are using other times to connect with our spouse and our partner? Or are we hiding behind co-sleeping as a need for our kids in order to avoid our partner? And the reason that we need to get real about this is because when we're avoiding sex and intimacy with our partner, when we are just not talking about it, the divide gets bigger and bigger and bigger in our relationship. And if this is a person that we want to stay married to, if this is a person that we want to be with, we can't always hide between what our babies need, whether it's co-sleeping or other things. We can't hide behind always putting our babies before ourselves and before our partners in order to have a strong relational foundation, right? So if you are honest with yourself and you are still sleeping with your babies, but it's because you're just trying to not be near your partner at night, now is the time for the conversation that you're avoiding. And if you want help having that conversation, just reach out in the DMs and let's talk about how to do that. Okay. Second way that we put up a shield is food as self-protection. Okay. So, your libido doesn't live in a separate room from your digestion. And sometimes we use food to create a physical no that we don't know how to say with words. An example of that for me is, especially with an autoimmune disorder, especially in early perimenopause, especially with someone who struggled with diet, and I mean food and gut digestion issues for most of my life. I will sometimes self sabotage on purpose and eat like shit because I know it's going to make me gassy, so that then I get to say, I'm gassy, I'm bloated, I don't want to, I'm too farty, whatever. So, again, this isn't about diet. This isn't about how you eat. It's about checking to see if you're making yourself physically unavailable on purpose, because saying a genuine no without an excuse to hide behind, or having the conversation about why it's a no and why it's a no on repeat, feels too high stakes or feels repetitive. Maybe you've had that conversation a lot and you're not feeling heard. And again, this is where I come in as a translator to help you both understand each other. When people do the roommates to romance challenge, which is my challenge actually for high libido partners, so you can send it to your spouse and be like, do this. They watch the video together, and so often I get emails being like, "Oh my God, the thing I've been trying to explain to my spouse for so long, he finally fucking gets it." It's like the light bulb went off. So let me be that translator for you, that person that can express where your no is coming from that maybe they're not hearing. Okay, point number 3 is the over needed nervous system. And this is a boundary grab, right? So if you haven't learned to say, I'm not available to your kids, then your nervous system is in a state of constant demand. So this is an example of where boundary setting with our children and boundary setting in other parts of our lives, our inability to, or our discomfort with that, gets reflected in our inability or discomfort with doing that in the bedroom, but it also has a consequence for if I can't set boundaries with my kids around touch, then I'm less available to and less open to touch with my partner. Let me explain that. So, if I travel back in time to my first, I would argue I probably had postpartum depression or anxiety or both. My partner already had a kid. He'd already been through the early years. So we're dealing with a seasoned dad and a brand new mom. And I probably still to this day struggle a little bit with boundaries with my kid, but my daughter needed to be on me like a lot. Okay. And she was always touching me. I breastfed exclusively, which meant she was always on my boob. She was on my boob all night, all day, all the things. And I remember the moment where that wasn't serving either of us anymore. I was getting cranky. I would get really sensory overloaded and then not be the way that I wanted to be with her. And I had to start setting this boundary where I was like, I just needed to be able to fucking eat dinner in peace. And so the rule became nobody sits on mom, nobody touches mom while she's eating her dinner. And that's 20 minutes. You will fucking survive, but nobody is touching mom while she's eating dinner. That was incredibly challenging for me to do. And the first week, my daughter was having none of it. She was pretty pissed, right? And so we had to redirect and say she could snuggle dad and whatever. But once we got over that first week, I finally had some peace, right? So when we are overdoing for our kids, and that can look like not setting boundaries around touch with them, that can also look like I had a hissy fit the other morning because I'm sick and tired of being the brain who knows where everyone's shit is, right? So we're getting dressed for school. And dad had been on duty over the weekend and I couldn't find anyone's jackets and I couldn't find anyone's shoes and I couldn't find anyone's shit. And I was like, what the fuck? And then I was like, we are late and I'm the only one who seems to know where these things are or cares where they are. That is a huge sign that I am overdoing for people. And I need to be teaching my children how to inventory their own things, track their own things, and collect their own things in the morning. Okay. So when I'm not setting boundaries around that and I'm doing for everybody all the time and I'm letting people touch me all the time in ways that I don't want to be touched, it's a no-brainer that by the end of the evening, I do not want to do anything else for my partner and I do not want anybody touching me. Okay. So we get to a place where when our partner reaches for us at 10 p.m., right, our body doesn't see a lover. Our body sees a person who needs a piece of us. Right? We aren't broken. We just are over needed. And when we're not setting healthy boundaries to have a healthy co-independence, essentially, with our children, then it shows up as overload when we're trying to be intimate with our partner. And that doesn't serve us, right? It doesn't serve our marriage. It doesn't serve our relationship with our children. It doesn't serve us. It doesn't serve anybody to keep hiding in this I'm needed and I feel validated by being needed so often trap. So we've got the productivity trap and patriarchy, right? This one kind of relates to both high and low libido partners, but we live in a culture that tells parents, but especially moms, that you don't have permission to rest until all the work is done. All of it. Okay. So there's dishes to be done. You can't relax and read. There's a lawn to rake. You can't relax and take a bath. There's clothes to sort for next season. You can't take the afternoon off and book a hotel room and have sex with your partner, right? Work productivity is valued more than rest. We don't see rest as something that contributes to productivity, right? But the problem is in parenthood, the work is never done. Okay. It is Sisyphusian. We will push the rock up the hill forever. Doesn't matter how much laundry you do, there will be more laundry tomorrow. It doesn't matter how many dishes you do, there will be more dishes to do. My husband and I joked we just want to do like a time lapse of the kitchen because my partner and I will go to bed and the kitchen will be clean before we've even woken up. It's a disaster. Okay. If pleasure is the reward that you have to earn by being productive, you will never get to the pleasure part. Okay. Desire requires the permission to be useless, to not be productive, and still be worthy of pleasure. If you choose to put the never-ending to-do list before your partner, before your relationship, before yourself, and wait until the day when XYZ will never get there and you will be divorced on the way, and you will be depleted along the way. We have got to learn to weave pleasure in and either do those tasks with more pleasure or know that the orgasm that I had last night is going to fuel me to have a way fucking better day today. Okay. We need to recalibrate our relationship to pleasure and see it as fuel for the things that we need to do in life, not something that we earn when we have depleted ourselves or like earned the gold star. Last two, we have the self-bypassing habit, right? So to surviving parents, many of us learn to power through. We bypass our hunger, our fatigue, or our anger even just to keep the house running. And this is what we call the disconnection gap. So both on a level of discounting our emotions, right? I'm frustrated and I'm just walking around all day frustrated, but powering through and putting on a brave face. Or even from a physical need perspective, I'm exhausted and I really need just a 30-minute nap, but there's so much to do. There's so much to do. There's so much to do. We end up ignoring those internal cues from our body that we need something. Okay. Sometimes that's something we need is a glass of water and some warm socks. Sometimes that's something we need is some personal empathy. It's just a hug for ourselves to say that thing was really hard. Sometimes we need a hug or some validation from our partner. Sometimes we need rest. Whatever it is, most of us are in a habit of completely fucking ignoring the cues our body gives us all day long about what it needs. So then guess what? First of all, your body goes, I'm not talking to that bitch anymore because she doesn't listen to me. Second of all, when you try to show up to sex, she goes, hella no, because you definitely don't listen to me. So why would I trust you in the intimacy part if I can't even trust you to like give us water and proper food when we need it? Okay. We get into this habit of self-abandonment, essentially. And the more we learn to tolerate the full rainbow of emotions in our body and allow our anger when we're feeling angry in healthy and productive ways. I'm not saying I'm giving you permission to like scream at your kids all day. Okay. I'm saying if you're feeling angry, you can go and journal and be like, I'm so fucking mad. Okay. We don't need to judge our anger as bad. We need to go, what is my anger telling me? Right. I'm frustrated. Okay, because I'm touched out because I need to set a boundary with my kid that I'm letting them touch me too much. I'm freaking out about the morning routine. Okay, we need to change the morning routine and I need to teach people this skill so that I'm not carrying it all the time. That's where my anger came from. That's what my anger was telling me in that moment. If we go back a couple of skills, okay? You cannot selectively numb your body. And by that, I mean numb it all day, ignore it all day, and then go to the bedroom with your partner and expect it to be like, oh, you're listening to me now? Okay. If you have disconnected from your anger or your boundaries, then you are also disconnected from your capacity to feel turned on and your capacity to feel desire. Okay. When you turn the volume down on all your feelings and all your needs, you turn it down on all of them, not just one at a time. And the last one is the lifestyle design gap. So sometimes it's not psychological, it's logistical survival. And we live in a society where so much of this is very true, right? If you think about it, you wake up and you spend the first 2 hours of your day with your children, insisting that they get dressed, eat their breakfast, find their things, and get ready for school. Then you drop them off to school. Then you go to work. Then you drive home. If you're lucky, that's a short commute like me. If you're not, you're spending an hour on each end of the day driving. You pick up your children and then you spend the last 2 hours of the day that you have with them, insisting that they eat dinner, do their homework, have a bath, etc., etc. Maybe you get an hour, 20 minutes of actual quality time where you're reading and you're present and you're landed with them and all of the things. Okay. When we're in survival mode like that, when there's literally no time for the people that we love, sometimes we need to think more macro. And by that, I mean, do I need to change jobs? Do we need to move? Do we need to reduce the number of after school activities that our kids are in, right? Some of us are trying to cope with a life that we've built that is not fueling our ability to relax and be present with the people that we love and feel pleasure. And some of us are stuck there. Systemically, there isn't really any options. And even if you moved to a new town, or even if you got a different job or whatever, it wouldn't change very much. And for some people, there are things that we can change, right? This is about looking at the values that are guiding the life that you've set up for yourself. Have we been intentional about how we set up, who's working and how we're working? Have we been intentional about what we've signed our kids up for? I'm going to tell you, I'm going to be honest. I got friends who got their kids and stuff almost every night of the week, and I can see how depleted they are. And I'm like, nope. My children get to be in one activity at a time. So if there's swimming lessons right now, we are not in anything else. Now that's going to shift eventually, and we're going to have to look at that. But I am not doing 3 nights a week plus the weekends activities. If you want to do baseball this season, we'll do baseball this season, and we'll do skiing in the winter. And that is by design, because I'm not going to spend all my time ferrying my children to activities and not spending any time with my partner or together as a family, right? I had to leave my job that I loved to take on something more flexible for me because of my autoimmune disorder and because I want to pick up my kids at 3 o'clock so that I can spend an hour and a half just playing with them before I ask them to eat dinner and do all the things. So sometimes, and this is again relates to both partners, we need to think higher level. Have we built a life that actually allows room for pleasure, for connection, for play with our family, with our babies, with our partner? And is there anything we can change to do that? If you can't change the macro stuff, then you change the micro stuff. And the micro stuff is that you fucking choose to put your phone away for 30 minutes and just let your kids lead and play with them. You choose 20 minutes on a Saturday where your kids are watching cartoons to be present with one another and share and maybe make out a little, okay? We either have to engineer time that we protect into our busy schedule, or we have to change our schedule. And that's just the reality of it. So that was a lot, right? There's a lot that we use to hide behind. There's a lot that contributes to our avoidance of intimacy. And our high libido partners sabotage this in different ways. The thing that I want you to take away from this episode is that it's not really about the shields that you're hiding behind. It's the fact that you're hiding behind a shield in the first place. Why do we do that? Well, if you're a woman, right? We've all got trauma. We've all been told since we were 13 that the only thing men want is to get into our pants. There's a reason sex doesn't feel like a fun, relaxing, safe place to go. Okay? What I want you to know, though, is that it doesn't have to stay that way. And you don't have to change it for him. Okay, this is not about making sex a safe place for you to go so that he gets laid more often. That is not the fucking point. Okay. The point is that sex can become a safe, fun, relaxing place for you to go so that you get the benefits of sex for yourself, first, for your relationship second, for your partner third. Okay. If you want a piece of that and you want to know how to do that, probably my best recommendation would be to start with the Naked Fun Toolkit. This is all about how to schedule sex that doesn't suck. Okay. So if you want to know how to invite your libido to the party, if you want to know how to set aside that 30 minutes and not stress that your libido is not just going to magically show up, if you want to know how to, under 10 minutes, intentionally transition yourself from busy mom, busy parent mode into, okay, I'm landed and ready to have sex with you mode, then you're going to want to grab the Naked Fun Toolkit. It's a 2-part workshop. So the first part, you learn how to plan that party for your libido. And the second one, I guide you through 3 of my very favorite transition activities to help you get relaxed, present, and connected with your partner and just open the door to more intimacy. The bottom line to all of this, my loves, is that you don't have to be in the 90% of couples who just decide that sex is not going to be part of their relationship, or that they just settle for its sucking, okay? Sex can be wonderful. Sex can be replenishing. Sex can be nourishing for you and for your relationship. All you need to do is learn the skill of it, and that is what I'm here for. Thanks for being here with me today. I'll talk to you soon.